Alrighty. So, can everybody see my screen okay? You can just get a yes
Yes.
or respond on chat. Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm Manuel Fernandez. I work in the Technology Learning Center, and we're here today to talk about VoiceThread, what it can do in our class, how it works, how to deploy it and make it available, and and how it can benefit you, especially in these extenuating circumstances. VoiceThread um, allows for you to present. We're being asked a lot to use Zoom to record our lectures or host live synchronous meetings with your students. If you have students that cannot meet or attend the synchronous meetings like they would have been able to at the time, right? Daycare has closed. They might be picking up extra shifts. VoiceThread is a place where you can upload videos as well as PowerPoint presentations, and then add audio, video comments, and text comments on top of those voice threads, right? And let the students interact with them however they desire, right? So let me also open up a new tab. So there's two ways to access VoiceThread. I always show the alternative option, which is uhd.voicethread.com. And again, this will be recorded. So you can take notes, but this will be recorded. So if you miss anything, do let me know. But it'll be recorded and you'll be able to review this afterwards. But I like to take faculty to uhd.voicethread.com because it tells you that it's somewhat separate from Blackboard, right? The voice threads can be created ahead of time with some preparation and then make them available in Blackboard. And I encourage that with faculty. Like, okay, you have a video or you have PowerPoints you want to upload, do that first in the VoiceThread area, and then bring them into Blackboard. I think is a better workflow, right? So you will see very similar options in the UHD in the Blackboard area, but I like to show this area because this is what your home page, your user page will look like as an instructor or as a user. Really, your students technically would see your students if they went to uhd.voicethread.com and they logged in with their Getter Mail information. They would see the classes that they're in and maybe some of the voice threads that you've shared with them, right? But they can also, if you have the ability to, or you encourage them to create voice threads for activities, then they can come here and work on this without, work on this ahead of time. So then they can submit it to your assignments. And we'll cover how to make a voice thread assignments in a moment. But to create a voice thread, once you're in here or you're in Blackboard, you click on Create, and it takes you to an Add Media area where you can choose if you want to upload from your computer, from a media source, or a webcam video, if you want to just record your video, or a webcam, or a URL. The URL is primarily for things like YouTube or other video repository. So I normally use YouTube. So like you can grab like a small lecture or like a TED talk and put that in between your PowerPoint slides. You know how you would have used maybe on a PowerPoint, you would have had a slide that takes you directly to a video. You could do that in VoiceThread as well, and it allows for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and create an audio recording just for just a demonstration. I'm gonna click allow on my microphone, and it's gonna count down, and it will do the same thing for all your students. And then it will start recording. And I'll just talk at length, and then I click on stop recording, and it will let me preview the voice thread. And then it will start recording. I'll just talk at length, and then I click on stop. So if I like what I heard, I can go ahead and click on save, or I can add additional material by clicking on more. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on save for a moment so I can show that once you create a voice thread, it's always going to ask you to enter a title. So I'm going to call this discussion prompt. you can put a description here. It makes it easier to search. If you have multiple discussion prompts, your tag and your description are good ways to differentiate between, um, if you're using kind of a generic title. You can always change the title. You can always call it different things for each one. And this maybe put the objectives here, discuss psychological topic, right? And then put in some tags. So psychology, chapter 5, etc. Right? You click on that, then you create some tags that when you search for them in the home area, then you can find them a lot easier, right? And this is the key thing about Boisterous. When you have a PowerPoint, upload a video, you bring in a YouTube video you bring a video from YouTube or some other video site, you can add additional comments on top of whatever you're bringing in, right? So this is the video, this is the audio content that I recorded in order to create this voice thread. I can allow my students to comment on top of this by choosing maybe text, and then the student can respond to what I said on the audio recording, and then you can interact with them and reply to them, or just give them a grade if you create a graded assignment. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question. Can we do it like video, like a PowerPoint? Now I use Zoom to record my lecture. So I share my screen and start to explain the lecture, like sharing the screen, the PowerPoint, and I'm audio recording. Can I do the same thing on?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and pull something from my Google Chrome. So if I grabbed, so if I were ahead to grab this PowerPoint, download it to my computer. So that's what I'm doing. Take a few moments. So I'll go back to VoiceThread. Let's go exit out of this one. Let's create a brand new one. So I go to Home. You gotta create one more time. Go to Add Media. My computer.
Then it will be my computer.
Yeah, it will be your computer, of course.
Okay.
And then I have this PowerPoint that I want to upload. So this is digital annotations. This could be a lecture, right? Click on save. So it's going to process, right? It's going to process a little bit, and then it's going to grab all the PowerPoint slides, and it's going to, each slide, it's going to be reflected on the VoiceThread upload. Now you can add additional things on top of that. I really like VoiceThread because it allows for a lot of remixing and combinations. So you have, say initially you had a PowerPoint slide that would, when you click on it, takes them to a video example, right? Now you can delete that slide and just use this to find that video somewhere on, so maybe, yeah, I mean, I was talking about this earlier in the week. So if I grab this, I grab that URL here for the video, and then I go and put that in here, click save. Now there's two processing. There's the digital annotations that are processing here, and then there's the video that's processing. Depending on the length of the video, it can take a while, right, for that to complete. But should at some point make it available right here, right? And you can rearrange slides. You can delete slides once you bring them in. You're not limited to just PowerPoint slides, as I've said. Say, for example, once I finish with this VoiceThread training, I download the recording, the MP4 file. I can upload that by going to Add Media and browsing my computer and finding MP4 file for me to upload, right? So there's a lot of things you can. You can upload PowerPoints, you can upload video, MP4, MP3 files. You can grab things um, from a media source. So you can grab other voice threads that you've already created. You can grab images from Flickr, from you can grab YouTubes from Khan Academy, Google Drive, New York Public Library, etc. Right? You can also, oh, sorry, I think I ruined that. Okay.
But this way, I'm using a video that I already recorded in Zoom, you mean? Can I do the recording originally on this thread? Like,
It depends. You can, so you could go ahead and add an audio or webcam recording, but you cannot do like picture in picture like we're kind of doing in here right now.
okay,
You can't screen share your computer and
okay,
record it
that's
and
fine.
bring it directly into VoiceThread. So that's where Zoom is the intermediary step. You record on Zoom, you share your
Okay.
screen, you do your presentation, and then you upload the finished video into a VoiceThread. Now, it's a great thing because as an instructor with the license that we have at the university, you have an unlimited amount of VoiceThreads you can create, right?
Mhm.
So there's nothing stopping you from doing the recording in Zoom and then uploading them here.
Okay.
So also another thing you can do is if you upload your PowerPoint, you might not necessarily need to use Zoom because I, for example, could start um, a microphone
Audio.
recording.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I could start recording from now, and it will let me navigate through the different slides, right? And I can write and point to things. So if there's this little pencil icon here, I can choose the color, and then I can do here, I can point, or I can go, yes, right. I mean, I'm left-handed, so this is a really bad tool for me, but it can be used. And then when I stop the recording and I preview it, it will do essentially, it will do step by step, right? So it'll navigate through the slides at the time that I chose to navigate to the next slide, and it will write at the time that I chose to write. So it will reflect those changes, right? So,
And it will be recorded so that, great.
so that will be an added comment on top of this presentation. So if you don't like Zoom as an option, you could always just do upload the presentations to VoiceThread and then talk over them. And that's the equivalent of what you would have done in a, like not the equivalent, but it would be like a different type of lecture presentation, right? The other thing is, I recommend this to faculty, is you can just time it to just talk about one slide at a time. So that way, if you are presenting and you lose your train of thought, or you have a bit of a coughing fit, or the kids walk into the room and kind of throw you off, it's easier to throw out like 10 a minute or 2 minutes of content than it is to throw out an entire 30 minutes when you were like on slide number 15, right? So
Yeah.
you can engage with that one at a time, and that makes it can be a little quicker when you're doing the presentations if you find it easier for you to record, right? I know a lot of faculty just prefer to do like, I'm going to screen share my computer, I'm just going to talk at length, but that's a good alternative, right? So yes, this is about, so this is some of the functionalities that VoiceThread allows. Like I said, you can add media, you can intermix and remix content. Again, something on chat. I'm sorry. I think Jasmine Avila said no. Okay. If you're on chat, if you just want to ask me a question. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. So that's how you create a VoiceThread. You add media and then you add comments on top of the the existing content, right? Now, how we deploy that in Blackboard. So I go ahead and just finish giving it a name. It was untitled. So I want to go ahead and call this digital annotations. And I'm going to just put this a tag, annotation, click save. So now I would go to Blackboard, right? And you can do the creation process from Blackboard, but I mentioned I like that alternative. So you would go to a content area. As long as you have like this 4 tabs, you're in the right place. And you click on tools and select VoiceThread from the list. Okay, so it'll be tools and then VoiceThread. By default, it always gives you the same name, so VoiceThread. So you want to change that right away. And I say that because you might not be finished working on a VoiceThread, but you don't want to have 15 different VoiceThreads named the same, right? Because that becomes very complicated to navigate and trying to find the one that you were doing work on. The other thing I like to do, even if I don't make it an assignment, is to turn on the extension services. Extension services is what gives you the option for an assignment later down the line. And if you don't have that checked, then you won't see the option for that. And I like to click on this, and I like to tell faculty to click on it because say you decide to make it like a watch assignment. If you don't have this checked, then it doesn't matter whether you create the VoiceThread or not. This is just it's not gonna be an option, right? So always check the outcomes. Grade Center, include column in the Grade Center calculations, etc. You can change the amount of points at any time. You can do that from the Grade Center itself, but I normally just leave it at 100 points for the time being. Now, the other thing I like to tell faculty is instead of choosing submit, because it takes you back to Blackboard, I like to click submit and launch because it will load the page into the next step. So it will say you will be redirected to the application momentarily. Now that it's in the, once it launches VoiceThread, it's going to give you 4 options, right? So let me talk about a little bit about the first 3, and then we'll go to assignment builder. So course view, it's going to be all the VoiceThreads that are shared with your class. So as you start to add either individual VoiceThreads or assignments, course view, if you link to it, will start to get filled up with content, right? So that's a great way to have, for example, you have a series of lectures. You go from chapters 5 to chapter 15, and you've added like a lecture or 2 lectures per chapter, right? Instead of having the students navigate through each folder to find the relevant lectures in the place that you put them, you can always do like a course view that becomes a shortcut for them to look at. Well, I only want to review chapter 5. Instead of going all the way back to week 6 or something, it just takes you just look for that in the course view area. VoiceThread home is the individual user's VoiceThread area. So my VoiceThread home is going to be different from your VoiceThread home and another professor or another user's, okay? An individual VoiceThread, which is what we're going to use now, is what lets us link to any VoiceThreads that you had created initially, like any VoiceThread that already exists, or you can choose to create a brand new VoiceThread, right? So I can choose from here, and I can scroll down and look for any other presentations, or I can look for using the search bar. So this is where the tags might come in handy. So I can put psychology, or I can look at annotations. So it'll give me that digital annotation, and it'll yield the, should have yielded the previous, let's see. So hold on a second. Okay. Okay, I guess so. I can click on here and just share with the class. And now we have a direct link. So if I click here, this is not a graded assignment. So as a non-graded assignment, this is completely optional. The students can participate and ask questions or discuss with each other, but it's not going to be for a grade, right? So they can start adding comments and so on. Now if you want an assignment, we go back to tools, click on VoiceThread, and we're going to turn on outcomes and extension services all over again. Click on submit and launch. And then click on assignment builder. Assignment builder is going to give you 3 more options. Now, the first option, create a voice thread, is, as the name implies, the students create something and they submit that for you, right? So they have their own PowerPoint presentation, they have their own video recordings or audio recordings that they want to make available for you, and then they make them available through VoiceThread. The process is very straightforward. They go into the link and then they says create a voice thread, and then they browse for their content media that they wanted to upload. The other 2 options, which is what's most commonly used by faculty, is either submit a comment, which is reminiscent from the discussion forum, or watch a voice thread. So let's do submit a comment for a second. If I click here, it asks me to choose from the list of voice threads that I have available, and then it will let me choose how many comments the student has to complete before they can submit the assignment. So if I ask them for 5 comments, then the student has to perhaps respond to 3 other students and answer like 2 of the questions that I have in the PowerPoint slides. So if I click here, it will take me to the, as an instructor, it will take me to the grading view for the assignment. So I'll launch in a moment. Click on the VoiceThread title, and then it'll tell me if there's anybody that has submitted, and if there was, their names would be here, and I could give them a point value. So as I said, you can give them some instructions on top of what you might already have laid out. You could go to like the specific slide where you want them to actively respond to something. So for example, I had this PowerPoint slide where I asked the audience something. You can type something here where it says, please answer the following question. So the students can respond to you by clicking here, or they can just open a new comment and selecting their preferred response, right? Any questions so far?
No, thank you.
Okay, so you can limit, so let me go to edit for a second. Now that we've made an assignment available, you can choose to limit what type of comments your students can make. And this is useful if you are encouraging them to do audio comments or video comments. You can limit the comments to be, 2 to 3 minutes long, right? Because ultimately, who has the time to go through like 5 commas that are 10 minutes each? Not that we run into those sorts of issues, but you don't want to encourage them to talk for a huge amount of time, right? So you can always limit that to 2 or 3 minutes, maybe at the most you can do 5 minutes. You can also choose, depending on the class, if you are in a communications class and this is about oral presentation, you might want to turn off the option for text or file upload, and just let them do microphone, a webcam, or a telephone as their options. And you could just uncheck and check the ones that you want, right? I click on save. If I go back to comment, this affects even me as an instructor. This affects my ability to comment. So now I only have the ability to do telephone, a webcam audio recording, or a webcam video recording, right? So So the last option is a watch VoiceThread. Now, these are great for videos that you think might be useful for the students to review, but you don't necessarily want them to comment, right? So say, for example, you had your synchronous meeting and you had an attendance of about 75% of your students showed up, right? That they normally would, less than they normally would have, but they showed up nonetheless. Now you're still worried about the other 25%. You can go ahead and create an assignment that makes it a mandatory grade to watch a VoiceThread. So if I grab a video presentation and then I click on create assignment, well, it doesn't have any comments. So first of all, go to edit. So let's do a comment. So I had to watch this video in its entirety. So I like to tell faculty to not encourage students to comment on watch assignments because well, it did have a comment. Hold on a second. But I think it needs audio or webcam recording. So test 1, 2, 3, recording 1, 2, 3. So okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's try a different one. Okay, so I guess that worked. So with this one, as a watch assignment, the student just gets through all the content that's already in the VoiceThread, like pre-uploaded, and they don't have to comment. And the reason why we tell them not to comment is because if additional students start adding comments in the VoiceThread, then they'll have to watch those comments as well in order to be able to submit by the time they're so it becomes really unfair for the last student to watch the VoiceThread if a lot of people have commented, because they have to go through every single comment in order to be able to submit an assignment. So any questions so far?
I think we're fine, but I have a question. I think you answered it in the beginning, but I want to make sure. What if you want this thread like in small groups? I have, for example, 20 students into 4 groups. So I want the thread like to discuss a project that only the one group have it.
So you can create a VoiceThread specifically for each group. So I can go in the sandbox, I can go to course tools, VoiceThread, and I call this group 1. And then there's an option for select groups, and I can click this. Now, depends, like, are you providing them the content, or are they supposed to create their create a VoiceThread themselves? Like, how are you wanting to engage with them using the VoiceThread?
No, I want them to like upload the presentation for this project, and then we'll discuss it. I'll discuss it with them. So I don't know. I think they have to do it, or
Right.
not.
So in that case, you make it an outcomes. You create a grade center column, make this available for them, and then we include all the groups so that every group can see it, and it's considered a group assignment, right? And we click on submit and launch. And the outcomes part is the most important thing because it allows you to create a VoiceThread assignment. So we're going to click on assignment builder. We're going to choose create a VoiceThread, and then we give them instructions. As a group, create a VoiceThread, add commentary, and submit to me. And then you can encourage them. This is going to be an important aspect. You have to tell them to share with the rest of the class. if you want everybody else to see it. Because if I
Yes.
go to Sandbox as a student preview, I go to like the group 1 assignment. Let's see. It's gonna let me submit. I need to check this box and share with the class in order for them to, in order for it to show up in the course view area. I need to check this. Otherwise, it'll be a private voice thread that you as instructor can comment and reply and look at, and you can give the students some pointers. But sharing with the class would be the equivalent of like, this is your final presentation for the rest of to all the students. And I click submit assignment, and that's it, right? I'm technically done. I'm part of group 1, and it now has a grade submitted on my behalf. So that's really how all there is to it. I mean, there's more. You can get a little fancier. You can create, like, you can manage groups in VoiceThread Home, for example. VoiceThread.com. Okay, so let's see, where were we? So there is a way to make it a little more complicated. If you have a VoiceThread class, once you connect your VoiceThread in any way whatsoever, you create an individual VoiceThread link, or you create a VoiceThread Home, it adds the course in this list area here. And then I can go here and select manage. From the owner, it would let me manage and add the, I can create a manage list. So if I click here, manage members, and I can go ahead and create a subgroup, and then apply custom names if I wanted to. So this could be like group 1, group 2, group 3, click create. And then I can share this link with each individual group, and the students can sign up to their VoiceThread group. So this is a subgroup that the students can access at all times. Each one belongs to their respective group, and then they can participate. So if you have more than one VoiceThread activity that requires them to submit content, then they can they can do all of this in this area, and then they can submit multiple VoiceThread assignments to you.
Thank you. That's good.
Okay.
It's studying and trying.
What was that?
It needs that I try it. You know, when we try things, we have.
Right. So do you have like a specific assignment or type of activity that you had in mind that you want to make into a VoiceThread, or?
I'm still thinking, but the students suggested that I do the project, but I didn't have any background. That's why I decided, okay, let me take this workshop, and from here I'll decide how will we make it. But thank you, you give us lots of information. That's for me, not sure. Just okay. She has questions.
So yeah, your most important thing is going to be your your creative VoiceThread assignment, and having the outcomes checked. That's going to be what does it for you. And then you can give the instructions of what you're expecting the students to submit, how many PowerPoint slides, the length of the video, if it's a video recording instead. But the advantage of VoiceThread is that it doesn't take any space on your course. It doesn't count against your quota if you're uploading multiple PowerPoint presentations or video recordings. It also, your students also have access to a VoiceThread app on their phone that they can use and make it available, and then share the VoiceThread with you. Like, so they can create a VoiceThread on their phone and then share it from Blackboard, right? So that's about it. Now the only thing the only other thing is, when you are grading a VoiceThread, you actually have to go into the VoiceThread itself. You don't really go to the Grade Center activity. You have to go back to where that VoiceThread was created and click on the on the place that you're using for for grading. So if I'm grading group 1, for example, then I go to that link and then I would grade what they've submitted to me at that time. You can always allow them to resubmit as a way for them to override any, if they miss something, if they missed a step, or they need to add additional PowerPoints, then that's a good way to let them handle that instead of having them clear their attempt over and over again. But this should load and let me grade the assignment. So kind of waiting on that. Let's see. Okay, so now I click on the student that I want to grade, and I see that the student has 2 comments or maybe more, and then I go ahead, okay, this is a good presentation, and I give them whatever amount of points I want to give them. Click on that, and then I can remind any students that have missed the assignment. You can just click on the little remind icon, and I'll send an email to them telling them, hey, don't forget that you have an assignment due that you need to turn in. So I can go back to also edit. Well, I'm the owner of that VoiceThread, so I'm technically able to do that. But let's go ahead and share a course view so you can see that now that I've clicked on share with the class, if I go to the course view for this particular course in Blackboard, it should give me that presentation. So I click on course view, return to course. So now any students that have shared their VoiceThread with the rest of the class should show up in this list, right? Now you can share VoiceThreads outside of Blackboard or outside of the university. If you click on share, you can always select, you can copy this link, and if you delete the UHD, it'll be publicly watchable. So you can have presentations that you want to make available to colleagues outside of the university, or you can invite them to comment. You can invite them to comment as a guest lecturer or expert. They can use that. You can delete that UHD.voicethread.com and just leave the VoiceThread part, and that will let them comment here however they want, right? That's actually a good example. I think a faculty circle last year wanted to implement that by having students from Taiwan University respond to VoiceThreads that have been made by Blackboard, by UHD students.
Nice.
You can also invite individual people to comment or view the VoiceThread as co-owners or just members of the list. So I can invite a specific person, and I can give them additional permissions from the share area. And that makes it possible for me to collaborate. So if I'm collaborating, whether with my students or I'm collaborating with another colleague, I can click on all those options and then click share, and they'll be notified like, hey, Manuel Fernandez is inviting you to do a presentation together, right? Yeah. Okay, so I like to leave a couple of minutes for questions or anything like that. So if you have a specific assignment that you want to create and you want to take the time to show, you can share your screen and maybe bring up your Blackboard and let me see what's going on. Or if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them at this point.
I don't have something ready, but I'll try to work on it and maybe call later if I have questions. But I want to make sure of one thing that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. There are 2 ways to reach the VoiceThread, either UHD VoiceThread or through Blackboard.
Yes.
You prefer the one that is not through Blackboard. But if I go through Blackboard, will I get the same properties that you explained through because I have
Yes.
to go to Blackboard. It will be almost the same, right?
Right. You actually will have a little bit more options. Well, at least in the setup part. Like the creating voice threads are going to be the same properties whether you're in Blackboard or not. But making the voice threads available in Blackboard is what lets you choose whether the students are submitting something to you, or they are watching something or commenting on something for a grade. That's really the most important distinction of what happens in Blackboard versus what happens in uhd.voicethread.com, right?
Thank you.
Is the grading component. Um, anything else? So what sort of activities were you thinking of doing?
Now I'm just thinking of this project thing, but they will be the ones that started. But I was also thinking of I already record everything on Zoom, but and I have to have a Zoom meeting so that we discuss if they have questions about the lecture.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, okay, if I put the lecture in Zoom and they can write their comments and I can review it anytime and maybe grade it as participation. When we had the face-to-face, I used to give them points for participation when they ask questions or answer questions or have comments. So maybe I can try to find a way to do it.
That isn't absolute. Are you holding any synchronous meetings right now? Like, are you having the students meet with you at a specific time of the day?
Yes, yes. I post the lecture for like in the morning, and I meet them in the afternoon to discuss, or the day after, so that I know what they did with the video. And
Okay, so I would host, when you do a live synchronous meeting, you can always record to the cloud and then download them as a video, as an MP4 file, and then make that available through VoiceThread, and then give the comment option, like create an assignment using the comment functionality. And that means that the students can then comment and you can give them some additional participation points, right? And this is also beneficial for the students that might have been missing the synchronous meeting, because they now have an extra workload, or their kids are no longer in daycare at the time that they were supposed to meet during the class, right?
Yeah, I have a question here about some of the students in these Zoom meetings. They comment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like to be recorded, or if I record it for myself, but they don't want me to share it with other students. I felt this because some student asked, can we share this? Is there like a liability or for sharing the students?
So that depends on where or how it's being shared. So let me say this: if you're in a classroom, if you're only sharing the voice threads to your class, or you're sharing, you're recording the lecture or synchronous meeting, then you make it available for the rest of the class. That's technically no different than a student being you mentioning that a student was in the class at the time of the meeting, right? I will say this: let me talk to my boss and see if we have like a permissions form or anything like that. I would say that you can change with the new security features. Make sure that you are updating your Zoom constantly. But one of the options that you can do is stop students from sharing their webcam. In their entirety.
You can turn it off, but
so it won't share their webcam. Therefore, they don't have to have a concern that maybe it's recording their home situation, right? And also another thing, I was just talking about it on Facebook on the CTLE, is you can show them where I'll find the documentation for that. But they can upload a background image to be like a virtual background. So students can have a virtual background instead of the real living situation, And
Okay.
that way they don't have to feel that concern if they speak up for participation, right? So if they have a question or they answer a question, they'll have to feel concerned that they don't like that it's being recorded, because the virtual background will be what's shown during the recording process.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Thank you for these ideas. I'll try to do it next week.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. And you teach what class, Professor Color?
I teach senior class. It's
Okay.
parasitology. It's the science of worms that lives in our bodies.
Oh, okay. That's a new one.
Yeah,
I graduated with psychology, so
it's a
with psychology, you're
biology
from
course.
UHD, so
Yeah, it's a biology course.
okay, I see. That's interesting. And Professor Avila, is there anything that I can help you with? Any questions that you might have, or okay? Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, if you need anything, my phone number, I'll send the email that I send with the recording should have my phone number information, my phone number and Zoom, personal Zoom meeting room. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll be more than happy to help out or continue to, I can sit in every once in a while. I can do like a one-on-one meeting or help with that process. Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.